you, everyone. I'm Kathy Koloff from IT Radix, and today we're going to focus in on how to create a productive work culture using Microsoft Teams. It is going to be very much focused on Microsoft Teams, but if you have other chat or other platforms that are similar to this, hopefully you can take some nuggets away and apply them to some other technical solution that may be out there. So the one thing I did want to mention before you just jump into this stuff is that Teams from Microsoft is extremely flexible, and by design, it's wide open, which means that no matter how strong your security system is, if you haven't trained your employees on your security policy and your privacy, or if you haven't taken the time to go in and lock these things down, one person can easily share something outside of the organization that perhaps you didn't want shared, or expose some of your information. So as you dive into this, please make sure you're paying attention to who's in your teams and what you're sharing. And then the other piece to this is keeping in mind HR standpoint. People do seem to think sometimes if they're just chatting through a computer that normal culture and common courtesies and respect may not apply. Just reminding you that you want to make sure that you share with your employees that you want to keep HR policies in mind. Okay, let's see. So next, okay, give me a second. Some things that you're going to need if you're using Teams, excuse me. You can run it in any kind of a web browser, or there's an app that you can download onto your machine. There is a Windows app as well as a Mac, Apple OS, iOS app if you want it. What's nice to have is a camera, a microphone. You may want some kind of an audio filter that you can layer on that would filter out things like dogs barking in the background. If you have a smartphone, you'll find that a smartphone can do everything. So even if you have folks, you know, I think Kay mentioned earlier that she didn't have a camera on her computer. Even if you don't have a camera, you can actually run Teams on your smartphone and leverage the camera and the mic and everything that's built into the Teams app that's on the phone. So I would encourage you to check it out. Microsoft has designed Teams to become sort of their hub of all teamwork in the Office 365 environment. It can do chatting or instant messaging. It can actually do phone calls, and it can do meetings. It's fully integrated into the various Office 365 apps. So for example, if you're in Outlook, you'll notice that there's a Teams, create a Teams meeting button inside of Outlook. There's other places where you'll start to see Teams popping into the various apps. It's extremely customizable, and you can extend it to do more than what I might actually show you today. I'm not going to do a huge deep dive into that. And then depending on your subscription, there's different levels of security and compliance that you can put in place. You may want to, for example, think about who has the right to create teams within your Microsoft organization, because by default, anyone can create a team, okay? So again, that's back to that flexibility. What we're going to focus on today is actually the communications aspect of it in particular. The fact that you can do the chatting, the calling. You could do it on a one-to-one basis or in small groups. You can schedule Teams meetings using VoIP or a video. You can get, if you have a subscription, you can get a dedicated phone number that gives you even more functionality. And I think I mentioned that it was across multiple locations. The one thing I will talk about for just a second here in terms of the phone calling. So for example, on my Teams subscription, I actually have what's called a domestic calling plan attached to it. So I can actually schedule a meeting with folks outside of our organization. And when I send them that Teams meeting invite, it will give them a call-in number that is not my usual call-in number, so that they can join a team meeting just through the phone, as well as through the video if they want to do that. So I'm going to demo some of that today. And that brings me now to the demo. So I'm going to close this PowerPoint, and I'm going to bring up Teams. So the first thing I'm going to mention is that there is a app, as I said, if you look in the upper left corner of my screen here, that you can download to your computer, or there is a browser-based version as well. I'm going to pop in here, close this tab, I was getting set. So if you log in through your web browser into your Teams environment, or into your Office 365 environment, you'll see Teams is here. If you click on this, it will bring you over to another page. And in this particular case, I am going to, I'm not actually going to log in. It'll prompt you to log in like this. You would type in your user ID and your password. And if you have multi-factor authentication, which we strongly encourage you have, it would prompt you for your multi-factor authentication credentials. And then it would bring you up a web version of Teams, which would look much like the one I'm about to show you in the app. But you can get to it through the web and have full functionality here. So today, we created a little demo environment. You have now entered the world of IT Radix Magic Kingdom, and we're going to spin off of Disney here a little bit. Okay, so as you can see, we are the happiest IT team on earth. I'm going to just tour you around the application first, and then I'll do some actual demonstration. I have a few folks on the line with me. I have Dan from IT Radix. He's our Wizard of Oz today, and I also have Justin Case will be joining us a little bit later, and then I'm going to actually invite one of our team members. Her name is Rachel, and so you'll see some actual communications back and forth amongst these people. So this is Teams. Hopefully everybody can see this, and this is what it looks like when you open it. And I'm just going to sort of go across the top and then down the side just to give you the lay of the land. If you've used Teams before, hopefully some of this stuff is very familiar. If it's not, if you're new to Teams, I'm doing this just so that you can start from the beginning and then hopefully ramp up really quickly. So the first thing you'll see, I'm going to skip over this for a second. I just want to come straight over here to the little icon. This is the image. As you see, I am logged in as Be Connected today. You can set your status in here so that, especially while you're working from home, this might actually be a useful thing to use. If you need to step away, if you're at lunch, you can set your statuses in here so that people know if you're available or not. The other thing it will do is it will sync to your Outlook calendar so that if you have a meeting scheduled on your Outlook calendar, it will show you as busy in Teams, so that if you're not responding in Teams, that gives clues people in as to why you may not be there. You can also set a status message where you can type something in here. You could mention somebody. Maybe you're setting somebody as a backup. Maybe you want to give them an alternate phone number or something of that nature. So you can change your status in here. Let's see. Saved is if you save a pinned message. I'll show you in here in a moment. If there's a particular conversation that you want to keep and have it at the ready, you can pin it and save it here. And when you click on the saved, I don't actually have any. Actually, I think I did make one in advance here. I saved this BYOD policy as a saved message. But if I had more, you'd see they'd all list up here on the left-hand side in that little saved panel. You can change your settings. You can change, there's a lot of settings in here, and obviously you can zoom things in and out for those folks like myself where your eyesight's not so great. Sometimes you might want to zoom that out. I'm not going to go through the rest of these choices at the moment. The next thing I wanted to do was just sort of tour you down the left and the right. So on the left-hand side, you'll see the activity. That's the activity feed. So if you're in a team or if you're in a chat, you have the ability to, especially in the Teams area, to set the notifications. So you'll see that you can end up with a lot of teams, and it's possible that maybe you don't really want to follow every single team all the time. You just have certain ones that are hot. The rest of them are more things that are of interest, but not necessarily something that you need a notification for. If you want to be notified, you choose the team. I'll show you this in a little bit. You choose the team and you tell it to notify you, and then as things happen in the channels that you're following, the activity button or the activity bell here will put some alerts at a little number there so you know something's going on. Chats. Okay, so chats, you can do just instant messaging through your computer, obviously typing. You can also do video and phone calls in here. And so you'll notice that I have a few chats that I've done in the past. These are recent chats. So in this particular case, just in case, is someone who's within our organization. And here's a chat that I've had with him. You notice it keeps the history so you can see what's going on. The nice thing about this is Justin could send me a message now. And so if I have Justin, if you could send me something now so people can kind of get a sense of how this works. This is a one-to-one chat where it's just myself and Justin, and we're the only ones that are in here. And so I'm doing great, Justin, thank you. So I'm just going to respond. And so what will happen is he'll see this response instantaneously. If you wanted to add somebody to this particular chat, you can come over here and just click on add people and add the folks in that you want to chat with. You can also, inside of this single chat, you can make a video call. You can make a regular Teams call. Now, if you have only Teams with no calling plans attached, what will happen is if they have Teams and you have Teams, it's essentially doing a computer-to-a-computer call instead of a phone call. But it will allow you to converse just fine as long as you have a mic and a headset so that you can hear. And then the other thing that's kind of cool is you can click on this and share your screen. So if you are trying to collaborate with somebody and you want to show them what you're seeing on your screen, you can click on the share your screen button and easily share your screen with someone else. I'm not going to do that today because I don't want to share my screen inside of Zoom and then share my screen inside of Teams. But I am going to demo a group conversation. So in this case, you can see here, I've had this group conversation going with myself and Justin Case, as well as Rachel, who is someone who works inside of IT Radix. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just click on this little video, and I'm going to join a call with them through the video. Now, I'm going to be able to hear them, but you will not be able to hear them. But I wanted just to sort of show you how this works. So it's calling them both right now.
Hey, Kathy, your audio cut out.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yep, good.
Okay. All right, so they could have a full video conversation going on, and Justin Case is obviously working on a puzzle there, but I'm going to drop this video call, but you can see how easy that was. All I had to do was click on the video camera, and there they are. They answered on the other end. And so wave goodbye, Justin Case and Rachel. Okay, I'm going to hang up.
Hey, Kathy, it cut back out.
Kathy, we still can't hear you. Hold on one moment. Let me mute and then unmute you.
And
Are you there?
I am here. Can you
There
not hear me again?
Yeah, I muted you and then unmuted you, so it looks like that fixed it, just so you know. Sorry about that.
Can you guys hear me again?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So, so here we are in the teams. We have all these various teams that we set up, and the way the teams work is you could do them strictly within your own company, or you can invite people outside of your team. So if you were to click on a particular team, you'll notice up here in the upper right-hand corner, it gives you a sense of how many people or who's in the team. In this case, it's strictly team members that are inside of your organization. But I have this Be Our Guest, and if I click on a channel in General Channel in Be Our Guest, you can see it's the entire organization as well as one guest. So it's really easy to add somebody to a team. You just click on this little hamburger button, as I call it, and you say Manage Team. And you can invite whoever you like in here. And so you'll see, I'm going to just expand it. You can see I have Justin Case and Rachel in here, but if you wanted to add somebody new, so you click on Add Member. And so let's say you need to know their email address if it's somebody outside of your organization. So I noticed Wendy from the chamber is on. So if I knew Wendy's email address, I could just, start typing in Wendy's email address and click add, and it would send her an invitation that she could now join in on this Teams conversation. So it does not have to be strictly within your organization. You can actually chat outside of your organization. And you'll notice that in Rachel's case, even though she works for IT Radix, she's a guest of our Magic Kingdom, and it has the word guest next to her name. So if we were to do a general chat, you can do, you can see what time do the Imagineers start in the morning. You could start new conversations down in the lower box down there, or I could just reply to an existing conversation by hitting this reply button. And I can say, I can actually respond here. Let's see. And you'll see how, what I like about it is that it nests the conversation together in a little group. And so as people respond to a particular chain, it nests the conversations together versus starting a new chain is what, what's, down here. And it'll keep it as a separate chain. So if somebody wanted to respond to the first chain, they could hit the reply button there, or they could start a new chain at the bottom. And now I'm going to actually have Rachel, who's a guest, just to sort of show you how this works. If Rachel is she is a member of Be Our Guest, Rachel could reply to this chain, and you'll see that she just types in a response, and then once she hits enter, it will show up. I will say this is a little bit hard because I'm running this demo blindly. There we go. So Rachel is able to participate. So to give you some scenarios where this might work for you, I'm part of a peer group in my industry, and we have a Teams group as well, where all of us can chat back and forth throughout the day. And it's great because, my colleague in South Carolina can send me a little team. It'll pop right up here in my regular Teams. I'll get a little activity notification right here, like you see that, or it'll show up here in the upper right-hand corner if I have multiple teams that I'm part of that are outside of my organization. And I can easily just respond to them, or it'll sit there and wait until I get, until I'm in Teams and they're, able to respond to me. So again, you can set who's in the teams, who's not. This one's just a team. If I jump down to Team Adventureland, we've got quite a few people here in the as guests inside of this particular team. This works like Slack, so you can create channels. So you'll notice we have all these channels here. When you create a channel, everyone that's in the team can see the channel. And I'm going to sort of remind you again of that warning I gave you at the beginning of security. So if you create something under Adventureland, and I've got 4 guests in here, they can see every single thing that is posted into this Adventureland. If you don't want them to see it, you want to make sure you're posting it in a team that is locked down to just your company, just your organization. To create a channel, you just click on create a channel. Cast of characters, typing in. You can put a description in here. You can decide who can get in here, and you can actually restrict it. So you do need to be careful about the channels. If you want to change the channel, then you got to sit here and pick the people individually. But by default, it's open to the entire team. You click next, and then it's going to add the channel. And now I actually have to pick the people that I want to add. So in this case, I'm going to just skip this for right now. And there it is. You see it's got a little padlock next to it. So now you know that it's a little bit restricted compared to everybody else, other channels. The other way, I just wanted to give you some food for thought as to how you could potentially use these channels. So in the case of information for our cast members, that's sort of akin to an HR channel. You notice we populated our BYOD policy in here. So if you have you can use it for general HR announcements. So for example, some of the HR announcements that have been coming out as part of COVID-19, we posted them into this, the equivalent of our information for cast members. If you want to get their attention and mention them specifically. So maybe like, for example, I want to call this to Justin's attention. Just like you would do an @ mention in social media, you can do an @ mention here. You can @ mention a person. You'll notice once you start typing, it starts to populate your choices. Or you can also @ mention a team. So if I @ mentioned a particular team, it'll start to fill it in here. I'm going to not do that right now. But you can @ mention a team, or you can @ mention an individual. And then by doing that, it'll cause the activity feed to pop up. So it calls their attention to the fact that you're specifically trying to draw their attention to this. So we use this similar channel like this for HR announcements. We also have reservations for us. If you think about our industry, what we do is we take in calls from clients and obviously assist them with their IT issues. That might be akin to a reservation. So all of our folks that are answering the phone follow this channel. And if somebody calls in and is looking for help, our service coordinators are also following this channel, so that if the person who's answering the phone says, hey, I've got somebody who needs an urgent assistance with a password reset, they'll pop it in here, and then all of the service coordination team, and we have 3 in our team, can see this instantly and then respond to it and let the folks that are answering the phone know that, hey, we've got it and we're moving it through our system. So teams and channels is pretty flexible. I'm going to stop for 1 second here. They're similar in terms of chat versus teams, but I'm going to just see if there's any questions. I think we're good.
Yep,
All
we
right.
got a bunch of questions if you want to go through some now.
Sure, let's go through some now. Thanks. I'm going
Sure.
fast.
All right. So the first question was from Tony about basic features with standard subscription versus additional cost.
Okay, so as many of you may know, Microsoft has lots of different subscriptions that they have out there. By default, if you have an email subscription, even if it's email only, you will get Teams. If you have a software only, you do not get Teams. Anything above and beyond email only, you get Teams across the board. If you want to make phone calls out of Teams, then you need to start adding in calling plans and things of that nature. So depending on what you're looking to do, you can just leave it at the basic Teams, and you can communicate all you want externally and internally within the Teams application. If you want to actually make a phone call or have somebody call in to you on a phone line, then you need to start adding in those domestic calling plans. Hopefully that answered that question. Okay.
All right. The next question was, is there an app for the iPhone so I can use it in the field instead of texting?
Absolutely. I love it. I have it on my iPhone. I actually have an Apple Watch. So I can actually see, like, if somebody sends me a team on my watch. It's a little small, but then that's my cue to go get my phone. There's an Android version as well as an iPhone version. You download it, you log in, you give it your Microsoft credentials, and you're off and running. It will pop up like notifications, like a text message. You can also do the video, as I mentioned, the video and phone calls through the iPhone or Android app as well.
Right.
Yep.
And then someone else in the chat mentioned that they were able to log into Teams from their phone without the app. So just going through like the browser on the phone, and that worked for them as well.
Yes, that's great.
The next question was that they currently use it for their meeting and that they've had issues with people on Macs. He wanted to know if you found that Teams is less friendly for Mac.
I personally haven't found it to be an issue. I have an iMac at home. I use it all the time. We have other folks within our own organization that are using Mac, as well as plenty of clients. I haven't seen any specific Mac issues. Dan, as a tech, maybe you could comment on that as well, but I think it's been pretty reliable.
Yeah, I can't say I've seen an issue on the Mac. I know a bunch of people are using it with Mac, so I haven't seen it yet.
Right. And Tony, no, BYOD is not bring your own drink. So I just saw that. So let's see what else.
And then we had, can you set up chats for a specific project? get updates on a project or an existing project.
Right, so let's say like Tomorrowland is intended to be, we'll just use it as an example. So let's say you wanted to make, it's a project that you're building Tomorrowland and you want to have a project team. So you add the people in that you want to be in it. So the first thing I'm going to just sort of show you is right now there's nobody in here. So I'm going to add just in case. I typed too fast. Let me do, I'm sorry, add member. And then you start typing in who you want just in case. And you add him. And then I could add somebody else. So I'm going to just add Paula, who's actually outside of this organization. She works with IT Radix. So this, I should have set this up. This is, as I said, is a demo account. The domain name that's attached to it is actually not our primary production domain name. It's a demo domain. So in this case, what I'm doing is I'm inviting Paula in our production domain, and just in case it's just a cast member of our demo environment. So we'll hit close. And then if they wanted to, for example, in the channel share, I didn't actually get to all the things on the left here. If they wanted to share a file or collaborate on a file in here, they can do all of that very easily. So you can see how it creates these things across the top, where the post is just sort of the back and forth chatting. The files is the list of all the files that are attached to this particular channel, not across your entire organization, just this team and just this channel. The wiki is if you want to create sort of a wiki for yourself. It'll give you a straw man one by yourself. So I'll show you sort of what that looks like. If you click on the wiki, it comes up, and then you can. I use this a lot for taking meeting notes, for example. So if I came in here to the page, I can come up here to Untitled Page and just say meeting notes, and I'll type them all in here, and I'll just put today's date as an example. So just to sort of show you how this works. And then if I, meeting notes, I'm just going to make something up. But if I wanted to mention and say, hey, just in case, referenced XYZ, he will now get an alert that he was mentioned in these meeting notes, or maybe he volunteered to do something, or he was voluntold to do something. You could easily just, put that in here, and then he would get the little alert on his activity feed telling him that he's been referenced in some meeting notes. Does that answer that question? Stop. I'm not sure who asked that question.
It was from Tony.
Okay. Let's see. Any other questions?
Not at the moment. There was a shout out from Wendy for the nesting feature, and a shout out from Kay for the channels for project management.
Right, right. So as an example, what we do is we actually have different clients, and then under the client, we'll put a specific thing that we might be working on for them as a channel. So it gives you a sense of how you might want to use this inside of your organization. I did mention that it links to your calendar. So if you click on the calendar, you can see there's Be Connected doesn't have a whole lot of meetings in here. But if you click on Meet Now, it'll launch a meeting. You can click on a new meeting. If you click on a new meeting, you can call it, whatever you like. Give me a second for my mouse to catch up with my, okay. Movie release, for example. And then I can invite whoever I like, people inside the organization. It has to be people inside, you'll see that you've invited before, or they're already members of teams. And then you can schedule it to say, whether it's repeating or not. You can pick a particular channel. So I keep picking on Justin, but I'm going to pick on Justin here. I can pick which channel I want it to be in. So I can choose from all of the teams that we're in, so maybe it's Be Our Guest and Meetings with Guests. And then I can add the location. I can put details in here. And what will happen is when I hit send, just in case we'll receive an Outlook calendar invite that is now on his calendar. And inside of it, if we give this just a second, it will populate the calendar details as well as all the team with a link that you can click on and just launch right into the meeting. So let's see, calls. You can make calls in here. Again, all of these calls are just ones that I've done inside of the organization. If I wanted to call outside of the organization, I would have to add the calling plan. And then files, this is a list of all the files that are available to me. I'm the site administrator, so I can see pretty much everything inside of the teams. So let's say I wanted to share a file with folks inside of the Teams channel. So I'm going to go back to Be Our Guest and the general channel. I can actually just attach a file in here. Okay, I am getting there we go. So I'm going to just choose, I can upload one from my computer. I can pick one inside of my OneDrive or other Teams channels. In this case, I'm going to just upload a file from my computer. I'm actually going to just upload this presentation, for example. If I click upload, and now what will happen is anybody who's in the Be Our Guest team can now see this file inside of the Teams channel. If you wanted to collaborate, you would want to share something that's inside of the Office 365 environment, and then you can co-edit it together. In this case, I picked something off the desktop of this computer. Let's see, what other things did I want to show you here? So apps, you can actually add a lot. There's apps in here. These are the ones that come with Microsoft, but if you click on more apps, you'll see that there is a slew of add-ins that if you give it a second, they'll go out there and grab off of the Microsoft Store, things like Zoom and Trello, and you can add, Lucid Chart is a graphing thing. So there's a whole slew of add-ins that you can use inside of Teams to expand what you're doing with it. Let's see, I wanted to also demo searching for just a second. So let's say you were searching on, you had talked to somebody about a movie release, and you could type in the word release, and then what it'll do is it'll show you all the conversations, whether it's in a team or in an individual chat or a file, if there was a file that actually referenced that. It would find all of those results just by typing up here. What else should I show you that's useful? So let's just say you wanted to pin that conversation here so you could find that PowerPoint easily. You just come in here. Oops, did I hit send? I didn't hit send, hold on. And you can you can click the little hamburger button and you can say save this message. And I mentioned those saves up there earlier. Now they're up here under the saved. The other thing you can do is, let's say you wanted to pin a particular channel so you don't have to, you notice I kept having to expand these. You can you can choose the hamburger button and say pin, and now what it will do is pin that up to the top when I'm on my Teams. There it is, pinned. So you can, if you're, for example, to go back to the situation where the service coordinators, they're following reservations, maybe you want to just pin that right there at the top so they can pop into it quickly. All right, any other questions?
Oh, no other questions yet.
Okay, great. I think the last thing I wanted to do was just, everybody likes the little GIFs and you can do praise and things like that in here. But I thought if there's no other questions, I was actually going to stop here. We do have a feedback form that I believe the Chamber is going to make it available for us to send out a feedback form. And I have a little cheat sheet that you can use to help you get around Microsoft Teams. And then the other thing I will mention is if you don't happen to have Teams already, Microsoft during this time is actually doing a free trial. So if you don't have it and you want to use it, you can sign up for just Teams. They won't give you free email. They won't give you some of those other things, but they will give you free Teams to help you through this, this difficult time. And then I thought I would just demo a quick little GIF. And with that, Snow White says thank you and good night.
All right, Kathy, thank you so much for presenting. I used Teams on a past job, and honestly, I really loved the software. I'm trying to egg on the chamber to pick it up. Hopefully this will help convince them. But I just wanted to let everyone know that I'm dropping some links in the chat to please check out and keep posted on our Facebook and LinkedIn pages for upcoming webinars like this. We will be posting a recording for your viewing pleasure on our YouTube channel and on our website's video library once it is edited. So that's in the chat. Tomorrow's webinar at noon is 8 ways you enable hackers to access your personal information. So really valuable information for everyone working from home with less security right now. Any other questions before we end from people? Let's see.
And just in case corrected me, that is not Snow White. I think it's Alice in Wonderland, right?
It is Alice.
It's Alice.
So
Yes.
anyway.
Yeah, I don't see any other questions unless anyone
Okay.
has something real quick.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.
Alrighty.
And thank you, Kathy. See you at the next webinar.
Okay.